Hello, my name is Christina Davis, and this is the unbelievable story of how an old, forgotten farm, left to rot for 18 years, completely transformed my life. Once seen as the family's disappointment, I ended up becoming the one person none of my greedy relatives could ignore. It's funny how sometimes the most valuable things are hidden in places that others consider worthless. I remember the day of the will reading as if it had just happened. The air inside the old law office was thick and heavy, with dark wooden walls that made everything feel tenser. I sat quietly, surrounded by family members who looked more interested in money than memories. Mr. Justin, our longtime family lawyer, sat behind a polished desk. He cleared his throat and adjusted his glasses before opening the envelope that held my parents' final wishes. My heart pounded as he started to read. My parents had both died suddenly in a tragic car accident, leaving behind an estate worth over $110 million. I assumed, like everyone else, that it would be split evenly between my older sister Janet and me. To our beloved daughter Janet, Mr. Justin began, we leave our investment portfolio, the family mansion, and all liquid assets. Janet smiled smugly, her lips painted perfectly, her head held high as if she'd already known she'd win. The jewels on her wrists sparkled as she crossed her arms in satisfaction. Then Mr. Justin looked at me. His voice softened. To Christina, we leave Grandpa Davis's farm property in Wyoming, including all buildings and belongings within. The room went completely silent. Then, suddenly, Janet laughed out loud. A sharp, mocking sound that echoed through the room. A farm, she said, tossing her hair over her shoulder and clinking her designer bracelet. Of course. Little Christina always liked digging in the dirt more than going to galas. I sat frozen. Grandpa's farm? The same 332-acre property that had been abandoned for 18 years since he passed away? I remembered Dad calling it useless. A lost cause. He never even wanted to set foot on it again. Now it was my only inheritance. There must be a mistake, said Aunt Maria, frowning. Jacob and Teresa wouldn't leave their daughter with just dirt. Mr. Justin remained calm. I'm sorry, but the will is clear. The entire farm, including all structures and contents, belongs to Christina. Janet stood up in her expensive designer dress, brushing invisible dust off her skirt. Well, sis, she said with a fake smile, enjoy your barns and chickens. I'll be managing a multi-million-dollar portfolio. She paused at the door and added with a smirk, don't worry. If you need a loan, I'm sure we can work something out. That's what family's for, right? And just like that, they were gone. I was left sitting in that cold office with nothing but a manila envelope that contained the deed and keys to a rundown farm no one had touched in 18 years. But what no one knew, including me, was that this so-called worthless land was about to become the most valuable thing I'd ever been given. Not just in money, but in freedom, purpose, and strength. Because that dusty old farm had secrets. And one by one, I was about to uncover them. The next morning, I made the long drive to the property that was now mine. When I finally arrived, the place looked exactly like you'd imagine an abandoned farm would, tired and forgotten. The main house stood tall but worn, a 3-story structure with peeling paint and sagging windows that hinted at years of neglect. But it wasn't the house that caught my eye. It was the massive old barn, looming in the distance like it had something to hide. That barn had always been a mystery. My grandfather, Raymond Davis, or Grandpa Davis as I called him, was a brilliant, yet strange man. He made his fortune as a mining engineer before retiring to this isolated patch of land. He spent his final years tucked away in that barn, always working on something, always secretive. My father used to scoff at him, calling him crazy for wasting his brain on junk in the dirt. No one in the family ever took him seriously, except me. I remembered how, as a little girl, I'd sneak into the barn behind him. He'd grin and whisper, "Our little secret." The barn door creaked loudly as I pushed it open, the sound echoing through the empty space. Sunlight slipped through the cracks in the wooden walls, casting streaks of light on piles of old equipment and cobweb-covered shelves. Dust floated in the air like snow, and everything smelled of rust and time. But as I stepped further in, something felt strange. The room didn't seem to match the outside. The space felt bigger than it should have been. That childhood memory tugged at my mind. I remembered Grandpa disappearing behind a hidden door. Everyone thought it was just my imagination, especially after his death. My father barely looked, claiming it was just another one of his dad's fantasies. But I knew better. I walked to the north wall, my heart pounding. My fingers brushed against the wood until I found the right spot. 3 gentle taps. Then I pressed the 5th wooden plank from the bottom. For a moment, nothing happened, then click. A section of the wall shifted inward with a soft groan, revealing a dark staircase leading underground. With shaking hands, I turned on my phone's flashlight and stepped into the unknown. The stairs led down to an enormous hidden chamber, untouched by time. My light danced across the room, revealing shelves filled with geological maps, mining charts, and chemical reports. In the center stood a fully equipped testing lab, dusty, but perfectly preserved. My breath caught in my throat. This wasn't just a workshop. It was a secret research facility. But the thing that truly made my heart stop was the old safe tucked in the corner. The combination came to me instantly, my birthday. Grandpa never forgot it. Inside the safe, wrapped in a cloth, was a leather-bound journal and a small USB drive. The first page of the journal read, "To Christina, the only one who ever bothered to listen." My eyes filled with tears. As I flipped through the pages, I realized the truth. Grandpa hadn't lost his mind. He'd made a discovery that could change the world. Underneath this so-called worthless farm was one of the largest deposits of rare earth elements in the western United States, minerals essential for everything from smartphones to clean energy. And not only had he found it, but he'd also created a groundbreaking method for extracting them. His process was efficient, clean, and unlike anything the industry had seen. The USB drive held digital files of patents already filed, just waiting for someone to act on them. He'd been waiting for me. I stood there, surrounded by proof of a hidden legacy, my hands trembling. The truth hit me all at once. The farm wasn't a burden. It wasn't a mistake.
It was a gold mine.
A multi-billion-dollar treasure disguised as a patch of forgotten land. My grandfather had believed in me when no one else did, and now I had the chance to prove that belief right. I knew one thing for sure. If my family found out what I had discovered, they would stop at nothing to take it from me. Janet would hire the best lawyers money could buy and argue I wasn't capable of managing something this important. She'd claim I was unstable or unfit, anything to grab control of what she believed should have been hers. I couldn't let that happen. Not after everything Grandpa had entrusted me with. I needed to be smart, careful, quiet. That night, I stayed in the dusty old farmhouse. The place creaked with every gust of wind, but I barely noticed. I sat by the fireplace, the journal in my lap, flipping through every single page of Grandpa's notes. His handwriting, once so familiar, now felt like a lifeline. He had poured his heart, his brilliance, and his final hopes into that book, and into me. By morning, I had a plan. I made 5 phone calls that day. First, to a patent attorney I knew from a finance seminar I'd once quietly attended. Then to a mining engineer I'd met years ago at a renewable energy conference. Finally, I called an investment banker I had grown close to during my early days in finance, a field my family had always dismissed as a modest little hobby. "I'm about to show you something that could change the future," I told each of them. "But you have to promise me complete confidentiality." And they did. For the next 7 months, while Janet filled social media with photos of designer gowns, beach resorts, and charity galas, I worked in total secrecy. We transformed the old barn into a high-tech headquarters. The hidden lab beneath it was upgraded with the most advanced equipment money could buy. We brought in some of the brightest minds in engineering, geology, and environmental science. It became a think tank built on my grandfather's vision and my determination to protect it. One night, as we reviewed the final refinements to the extraction process, Dr. Peter, our lead engineer, looked up from his computer and said, "These patents, they're game-changing." Your grandfather's method isn't just efficient, it's clean. He found a way to make rare earth mining environmentally sustainable. Do you know what this means? I did. With the world's growing dependence on rare earth elements for everything from smartphones to wind turbines and electric cars, we weren't just sitting on a resource. We were sitting on a revolution. The demand was only going to rise, and we were the only ones holding the key to unlocking it responsibly. To protect the discovery, I created a network of shell companies and incorporated them under the name Davis Sustainable Resources. Using the savings I'd quietly built over years of frugal living and smart investing, I funded our first operations myself. Every move I made was calculated, no paper trail that could lead back to my family, no public filings that would alert them too soon. Then came Janet's wedding. It was a grand, glittering affair at the family mansion. I almost didn't go, but I knew that skipping it would only raise suspicions. So, I arrived in a simple dress, blending into the sea of designer labels and champagne flutes. "Oh, Christina," Janet gushed as I walked in, her voice sugary and fake. "How's life on the farm?" Her new husband, a hedge fund manager with a too-white smile, chuckled beside her. "It's been educational," I replied with a polite smile. "Actually, I've been meaning to ask, how's the tech sector in your portfolio holding up?" Janet blinked, thrown off by the question. "Fine, I suppose. Why?" I sipped my champagne, keeping my tone casual. "Just curious. I heard the rare earth shortages are starting to affect manufacturers. That usually hits stock prices hard." She looked uneasy. "I haven't checked in a while." "You might want to," I said, already turning away. The next morning, while Janet and her husband flew off for their honeymoon in the Seychelles, we quietly broke ground on our first extraction site. Just 2 weeks later, Davis Sustainable Resources had signed supply contracts with 5 major tech companies. Our name hit the front page of the Wall Street Journal under the headline, "Revolutionary Mining Startup Disrupts Rare Earth Market." My phone didn't stop ringing. Everyone wanted to talk, reporters, investors, and most of all, my family. Our valuation passed $3 billion on our first day of public trading. Janet finally called, her voice sharp and panicked. "Christina, why didn't you tell us? We're family, are we?" I said quietly. I thought I was just the girl who got a patch of dirt for her inheritance. In the weeks that followed, chaos erupted. Janet and Aunt Maria were furious. Their lawyers filed claims, insisting the patents should have been included in the family estate. They accused me of hiding valuable assets, trying to paint me as deceitful and greedy. But I was ready. But Grandpa had planned for everything. Every detail. His will clearly stated that all contents of the farm, including any ideas, inventions, or discoveries made there, belonged solely to me. No room for confusion, no space for challenge. The hidden underground lab, built right on the property, was proof that everything had been developed there. Legally and morally, it was mine. He knew my family well enough to predict how they'd react, and he made sure his wishes couldn't be undone. The final confrontation happened during an emergency family meeting Aunt Maria called. We gathered around the long, polished dining table in the family mansion, the same table where they once laughed at my simple career in finance, mocking me for not chasing status, like the rest of them. Now the air was thick with tension, the sparkle of expensive jewelry doing little to mask the desperation on their faces. "You have to understand," Janet said, her voice shaky, bracelets jingling as she fiddled with her hair. "Dad would have wanted this discovery to benefit the whole family." I didn't respond right away. Instead, I reached into my bag and pulled out Grandpa's leather journal, flipping to a page I had marked in gold. I read his words aloud, my voice calm and steady. "Dear Christina, I'm leaving you this farm because you were the only one who saw value where others only saw dirt. Your father and sister chased wealth. You chased understanding. That's why you'll succeed where they never could." The room went quiet. No one had anything to say. They couldn't argue with his handwriting. "You know the real difference between us, Janet?" I asked, closing the journal gently. "When you inherited the family fortune, I congratulated you. When I built something with my own 2 hands, You tried to steal it. Janet's smile faltered. We can still work something out. Actually, no. We can't. I stood up holding my head high. But here's some free advice. Invest in green tech. Davis Sustainable Resources is about to announce a major expansion. You might want to read up. I turned and walked away, ready to leave the past behind. But Aunt Maria's voice stopped me at the doorway. Your parents would be ashamed of how selfish you're being. I looked back one final time. No, they'd be ashamed that they never saw what Grandpa did. But that's their loss, just like this company is yours. Today, Davis Sustainable Resources is valued at over $15 billion. We're not just mining, we're rewriting the way the world thinks about natural resources. Our process is clean, sustainable, and efficient. The old, forgotten farm is now a cutting-edge research facility where scientists and engineers from all over the world collaborate. But I kept the barn just as Grandpa left it, hidden door and all, as a reminder of where it all began. Janet? She still reaches out now and then, mostly when she wants something. Just last month, she called about investing in our latest venture. I had my assistant kindly refer her to the public investor inquiry line. The family mansion, once a symbol of their pride, went up for sale not long ago. Years of bad investments and an extravagant lifestyle had finally caught up with Janet. I quietly bought it through a shell company and transformed it into a science learning center for underprivileged youth, giving the next generation a chance to see value where others might overlook it. Yesterday, I received an invitation to speak at my old high school's graduation. The topic? Finding value in unexpected places. I accepted immediately. I already knew exactly what I'd say, because I had lived it. These days, I still live on the farm, in Grandpa's old house, now beautifully restored, but full of its original soul. Every morning I walk to the barn, tap that familiar panel, and smile as the secret door swings open. I remember the man who looked past appearances, who believed in something bigger, in the land, in the future, and me. They say success is the best revenge. But I've learned it's not really about revenge at all. It's about showing, through actions and results, that true worth isn't found in what you're handed. It's in what you create. Sometimes, the most valuable thing you inherit isn't money or property. It's the wisdom to see potential where others only see failure. And that kind of vision? That's priceless.